Hey everyone, Cooper here, host of the fine podcast you're listening to. I just want to let you know that the episode you clicked on has a format that is very heavily inspired by a podcast called The Bookening. To be clear, our thoughts and opinions in this episode are our own, but the format is very similar to this podcast. I just wanted to give you a heads up and give credit where it is due. With that out of the way, enjoy the show. Coming up next, Booking It reads Out of the Silent Planet. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Booking It. I'm, of course, your humble and eloquent host, Mr. Cooper Cobbs, and joining me today, my fellow podcaster and friend, Mr. Isaiah Radsky.
Hello.
And today we are not going out of the Silent Planet physically, but we're talking about the book by one Mr. C.S. Lewis, the author of
what a great
the Chronicle.
transition there.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Chronicles of Narnia, the author of the Screwtape Letters, Mere Christianity, a bunch of books. You know him as Clive Staples Lewis, maybe. I don't know if you're one of those weird people. Anyway, we're talking about one of his lesser-known books today, Out of the Silent Planet, Book 1 in his Space Trilogy. And if you'd like to listen to an episode really talking about the Space Trilogy as a whole, me and Tanner did do a patron episode on our Patreon. Those two are separate things, but if you'd like to listen to that, go to the link in the show notes, patreon.com/bookinit, and you can donate more than $10 a month, and you get access to a bunch of cool bonus episodes that we do for our patrons, and that is one of them. So anyway, me and Isaiah are talking more specifically about the first book, though, Out of the Silent Planet today. So speaking of Out of the Silent Planet, Isaiah, what's your baggage with maybe do baggage with C.S. Lewis, and then more specifically, Out of the Silent Planet.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, with C.S. Lewis, I guess I've always kind of known about him, at least as far back as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
When I was pretty young. I don't know what I'd say around 8, 9, something like that. Probably a little bit younger. I don't know. I don't fully remember. But my dad we read the Chronicles of Narnia as a family a little bit every night or something like that. So I guess that's when I first heard about him. And Chronicles of Narnia is a great book series.
Yep.
And then it's basically my baggage with C.S. Lewis. And with Out of the Silent Planet, I'd never heard of it until I saw that we had to read it for school.
Yep.
So yeah.
Nice. So I'm pretty similar, obviously. Chronicles of Narnia, my first introduction to C.S. Lewis. I mean, I just don't remember a time where I just didn't know about the Chronicles of Narnia. I mean, I read them when I was probably pretty young. I was probably 6 or so when I read them for the first time. And obviously, they've just been on our bookshelf forever. And so I've read them all the way through multiple times. Love the Chronicles of Narnia. Love C.S. Lewis. Let's see. How many other C.S. Lewis books have I read? Honestly, it may just be Chronicles of Narnia, Screwtape, Mere Christianity, Space Trilogy. I haven't read too many of them, but obviously I just know who he is. I know his quotes.
Said what, 15?
No, I said
technically Chronicles of Narnia. It's 5. 7.
Yeah, it's 7,
okay.
But I mean, come on, it's the Chronicles of Narnia.
True.
Everybody reads
Whatever.
them. Anyway, no C.S. Lewis, and then a couple of years ago, I became aware that there was this thing that he had written called the Space Trilogy, and it was this trilogy of books that C.S. Lewis had written. Shocker. And I was like, that sounds cool. I probably want to read that. And so last year, over the summer, on Amazon, I ordered the trilogy, and I, at Tanner's urging, obviously, because he's a big Space Trilogy fan, read through all of them over the summer. And I think I enjoyed them on a certain level. I didn't enjoy them a ton. I like them, I guess, but they're very interesting reads and very interesting to talk about for sure. So that's kind of where I'm at with my baggage. Before we get any more meaty discussion, do you want to do the book in 30 seconds?
Oh boy. Okay.
Basically just turned into, somebody tell everybody the plot of the book, and I just yell out 30 seconds, but nobody ever really keeps to that. So anyway, go ahead, Isaiah.
Right.
Starting now.
All right, so basically, this book is about a dude named Ransom who gets kidnapped and somehow ends up on a spaceship that goes to another planet called Malikandra, I think. And he
Yep.
has no clue what the planet is, how he got there, really, like why he's there. Besides, he thinks that he's supposed to be sacrificed to some creatures called the Sorns. He ends up running away, living with these things called the Harasso, learning their language. Ends up meeting their like ruler on the planet, and they're kind of El Diolo, which are kind of like angels, and having a big discussion about it. And then in the end, ends up going back to Earth with the two people that kidnapped him. Yay.
Yep. That's pretty good. You're good at this. He's probably the best
No,
out of all
I
of
really
us.
am not, but
That was a high-level, extremely accurate summary of the book in 30
actually,
seconds.
now that I look at it, that was like 31 seconds.
Yeah, it was spot on. Anyway, I'll have to say that was exactly right. And if you listen to my episode, my solo episode, which, I mean, obviously, there's everybody's... You know what? I will just say this. I think that episode that I did, that solo episode, was one of our most downloaded episodes in the first week since Half Centennial Celebration, and then since before that. It's one of the most downloaded episodes in the first 7 weeks. So, you know, Isaiah, you can just go ahead and turn off your mic. No, I'm kidding. Me and Isaiah like doing this.
Hey.
And no. Listen, our group episodes are much better than my solo episodes. All that said, if you want to go back and listen to maybe the first couple minutes of that episode, I talked about Out of the Silent Planet and just what Lewis was getting at, where he was coming from, what was his point, everything like that, kind of the background. So if you want to go listen to that before you listen to this, I would recommend that because it is useful and helpful. Even as I'll cover most of it in this episode, but if you wanted to know a bit more than that. Anyway, I guess just high level, big picture, what'd you think about this book when you read it? Did you find it entertaining, interesting? Just, you know, give us some of your thoughts.
I thought it was a pretty good book, yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely kept me entertained. One thing that I thought was cool is that this was written like quite a while ago.
This was the 30s, I think.
Yeah, but it
1930s.
seems like it's so modern, like with the technology and stuff that he talks about.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I mean, yeah, we don't travel in basically like the think of a classic UFO. That's what they had.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it's
spaceships
a
aren't
very
like that.
retro spaceship, yeah.
But still, a lot of the stuff he talked about in there were not like, were just kind of made up, but they kind of seemed, it seemed like it was a much newer style book with all the technology and stuff that he talked about. Or whatever.
It just seemed, I'm not sure I'm ready to give it to you like it was modern day level, but it was definitely seemed more advanced than 30s for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I also thought it was interesting how I made it where the humans were like the actual alien invaders.
Yeah, definitely like flipping on its head.
Yeah,
for sure. At any point were you like, what is Lewis getting at here? Was it kind of obvious the entire time? Was it subtle in his messaging, or was it just, here is the message?
I mean, I feel like it just kind of said, here's the message.
Yeah,
at
it kind of
times,
did.
but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, on an enjoyment level, like as a piece of a dime store novel or just an entertainment novel, on a scale of, what's a really boring book? Let's see, anything by Herman Melville. He wrote Billy Budd Sailor. Remember last year?
Oh,
on a scale of Billy Budd Sailor to Harry Potter, how would you rate the entertainment level of this book?
How am I supposed to rate that? I'm so confused.
It's just a 1 to 10, but just showing you where the 10 is at and where the 1 is at.
I'd go with like a solid 7.5.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't honestly the best, but it was good. Yeah.
I'll be with you there. Just before we get into some more depth of like characters and stuff, what did you think about the world? I mean, the aliens, like his depiction of Mars. I mean, like on a sci-fi novel. How do you think it worked?
I mean, I thought it was cool. I did think it was kind of funny how he made the water on the planet be the heat source and also made it literally blue, not just blue.
Like, yeah, imagine if it was like really blue.
Yeah, like wow. But I don't know. I thought it was cool and it was really smart and I don't know, fun to read. Kept me entertained and all that, and the whole thing about how Mars has less gravity. Right? It was Mars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I forgot to say it in the book in 30 seconds.
He finds out Malacandra is Mars. Yeah. I mean, Isaiah was right. He didn't know, but it is Mars. Yeah.
True. Well, he doesn't know till the very, very end.
Right.
But how Mars has less gravity, so everything there is stretched. Like they're
Yeah,
taller,
that was kind
everything's
of fun.
taller, bigger, so like that, or how their mountains were. Just is really weird. But imagine like a very. This is at least how I thought it said it. Like a thin point going up and then like plateauing out into a giant like flat thing on top.
Yeah.
Like think of trying to put a big flat rock on top of I don't know like a straw, and that's what it would look like. Just more
Yeah.
like a mountain type shape. It's weird.
Yeah. And it's funny. Tanner mentioned this, I think, in our Patreon episode about this. How basically C.S. Lewis really knew nothing of what we know about how Mars looks. Really, I'm sure he had some photos, but he didn't. Like nobody could publish this novel now. Everybody'd be like, "You kidding me? Mars is red. You know, it has dust as a desert. It's not like this." But back then, nobody really knew what it looked like as much as we do today. Nobody really knew how a spaceship would work necessarily, but we do today. And concerning all of that, it works really well, like Isaiah said. And and even forgiving him the fact that he doesn't know what Mars looks like, it's pretty fun. Like Isaiah said, the stretched out stuff is really, really fun. The
whole thing with Mars. I mean, sorry,
No,
totally
you go ahead.
interrupting you. But,
No.
how like I don't know how he thought to do it like this. But like you know how Mars is supposed to be like an orange or a reddish planet,
Right.
something like that. But how he did it, he said that the atmosphere made it look like that. But whenever they went on it, it was like vibrant blue, pink,
Yep. Yeah.
purple, stuff like that, which I thought was very interesting and creative, but also weird.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and another level too. Part of me is kind of like, while some of this stuff is cool, I honestly don't really care that you mention 10 times in like one chapter that the lakes are warm and that they're really, really blue.
True.
Like on a certain level, I don't care. Like, he's like, look, the water is blue.
It's the
I'm
heat
like, I'm
source
not-
too. Huh?
Yeah, it's really warm and not cold. And that's like a big
would
deal throughout the
suck.
entire book. And it's like, on a on a certain level, this world building is pretty fun, and on another level, it's like really, really dumb at some points. But
Yeah. Or their language too.
yeah, I mean, Tolkien hated this book so much because Lewis just throws in 25 random alien words and doesn't.
And it
give...
basically just sounds like someone just made a random noise. Like that's the word for high. It's like what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we were joking in class the other day. C.S. Lewis listened to Brian Regan's skit about Hooked on Phonics or something, and it was like, "Oh, I have the name for my alien, Hanao." You know, it's yeah, but it is pretty fun. It is pretty fun. And one thing Isaiah mentioned that I want to highlight again here as well is how Lewis flips on the head the typical sci-fi perspective of man is conqueror, man's destiny is among the stars, and that's basically every sci-fi book in C.S. Lewis era. I mean, I mentioned this on our Dune podcast. Dune is all about, like, the entire plot of Dune is they're trying to make this human who is the best human of all time. And they're in a book that we read last year to talk about on the podcast, Starship Troopers. It's again about humanity extending through the universe, right? And I think that a lot of people around this, who are sci-fi writers around this time, were pushing sci-fi is a genre that just historically has been the glorification of humanity, the expansion of humanity among the stars. And C.S. Lewis completely twists that and says, what if humanity was the problem? Everybody else in the universe is participating in the music of the spheres, and humanity is left out. We are part of the silent planet, and we are the invaders in this scenario. That's a really, really fun, it's twisting everything on its head conceit, you know. And another person who...
Oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay, well, I was reading a short story of the day by Ray Bradbury, who wrote Fahrenheit 451, and it was called The City. And it was basically the plot of the short story, and if you want to read it, you know, there's going to be spoilers for this, but there's a story basically where humanity is on this one little rocket ship and flies to another planet, or sorry, just people from Earth are, and they go to another planet, and at this planet there's this city. And this city had basically been built as a revenge against humanity. So a long time ago, humanity had been on this planet and had started warring with this other race. And humanity won the war by like using biochemical weapons, and then left the planet to go to Earth. And so everybody on this planet died, but they built the city just in case humanity ever came back as a revenge mechanism. So this idea that humanity a long time ago created its own worst enemy, and then later stumbled upon it, right? And I think it's another similar thing here to where humanity isn't always the greatest. Humanity isn't always the hero. Humanity is oftentimes the villain. And obviously in C.S. Lewis' perspective, he's coming at it from a godly perspective. Like, we are the race that fell in the universe, and nobody else fell. It was us. And because of that, our desires and motives are twisted, and they seem stupid and foolish in the eyes of others, especially evidenced by that last speech. So, what are you going to say, Isaiah?
Oh, yeah, we probably should explain why Earth is called the silent planet.
Oh, yeah. You want to go do that?
It's kind of like a main part of it.
Yeah.
But, so basically, the reason why the book is called the silent planet is because they came from Earth, which is called the silent planet, or Thulcandra? I feel like I said that wrong.
Thulcandra, yes.
Okay. And basically, the reason why they call it the silent planet is because before there was any life on the planets, or at least on Earth, I think, the bent one, or the evil one, I don't know why they say bent instead of evil, but
well, because remember, that's how it translates in it's like a thing.
Point, yeah. So basically, the evil one,
because they don't have any words in their language for evil or wicked or anything like that.
Point. Okay.
So that's the bent.
Yeah. So also, I probably should say this: every planet, at least we know Mars and Earth, and probably all the other planets, have a ruler over them, or something that like the angels, and then like I don't know what is he? He's not like.
Right, I think, yeah, it's weird because I think it's a creation of Lewis, because there is Melildil, there's the Elildil, which are angels, then there's just Oyarsa, right?
He's like above the angels.
He's not above the angels, though.
I thought he was.
I think he's just a separate. I think he's a separate heavenly being. I don't know.
Well, okay. Anyway, there are heavenly beings. There is a heavenly being that's supposed to rule over each planet. And the evil one,
right,
the one who's supposed to rule over Earth, rebelled against the other ones and caused this whole big war. And then ended up losing, getting trapped in Earth's atmosphere. Because other ones could travel between planets, at least.
Right.
And stuff like that. And then Earth was called the silent planet because no one could go to
was
Earth.
Cut off.
Yeah, because it was completely cut off. Like, if they went to it, they'd get trapped there by the evil one or something like that. Or turned to the side. I don't know. So basically, Earth, there was no communication coming in or out of it. No one could go to it to see what was happening. They had no clue what was happening on Earth. So it was just, like Cooper said, cut off.
Yeah. So that's what it's called, the silent planet, like as I said. Anyway, let's talk a bit more about some characters. So really, there's only 3 characters worth noting: Ransom, Divine, and Weston. Just kind of want to talk through these. I mean, Ransom, the protagonist of the story. Was he likable to you? Do you find yourself relating to him? I don't know. What do you think about Ransom?
He's just too smart. That guy. As I was reading this, I'm like, how the heck did this guy do this? Basically, he goes to he's on Mars, doesn't know their language, and then all of a sudden, like, learns it in not even a month, or at least the basics of it.
Yeah, it's a very short period of time.
I have no clue how he does that.
Yeah. I mean, it seems kind of arbitrary almost that Lewis made him a philologist, or someone who studies language. And so he's like, so because he's a philologist, he'll know how to learn a language really fast.
Well, know how to learn a language of basically grunts and weird noises.
Yeah, it's first of all, maybe a bit of a stretch, and just seems really arbitrary and necessary for the plot and nothing else.
Yeah, then he doesn't just learn it; he learns it enough to have like deep conversations with.
Right, like translate deep concepts.
Like that. It's like, what?
Yeah,
that one didn't make any sense. But besides that, I thought he was a good character, and I mean, the whole thing, the movie was just him basically trying to hide from Weston and Divine, or get back to Earth.
Yeah. I think he's fun. I think he's a good audience avatar. Obviously, in a story, what you really want is an audience avatar. It's someone who doesn't really know what's going on, like you, and is gradually exposed to it. So in this case, it's him being exposed to Malacandra, and then it's him being exposed to the truth about the Silent Planet, Thulcandra, as well as the truth about just humanity itself. So I think as far as that goes, solid character. He's got I think I really like the name Ransom. Just it's pretty cool. Elwyn Ransom. Yeah. Anyway, two bad guys of the story, Divine and Weston. I mean, Divine is, I don't know.
He's just there for gold.
Yeah, he's just the greedy guy. So,
or what was it, the Tears of the Sun or something like that? Was that what they called it?
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah,
but
something like that.
Gold.
It's gold. It just, yeah. It runs like rivers on Mars, apparently.
Yeah. That would be sweet.
And then, yeah, well, okay. Isaiah's starting to think like Divine over here.
No, I'm just saying, if we had that on Earth, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's what happened in 1849, California.
True.
And then also, I guess we have Weston. That's the guy.
That guy.
What do you think about Weston as a bad guy?
I thought it was just weird.
Yeah, no, by the way, if you want to read the second book, like I said, he gets possessed, basically. So, you know.
Interesting. I may read it. We'll see. All right. I don't know. Weston was a weird character. I mean, his whole thing, right? I mean, I'm going to say this for listeners, but basically the whole reason why he wanted to go to Mars was to conquer Mars and have humans live on Earth and Mars. So whenever Earth died, they can still have the human race living on Mars. And then when Mars is about to die, they go to a different planet, conquer it, and then the human race can live on forever. But he didn't care about his life. He just cared about the human race. But then he didn't really care about anything in particular with the human race, which is weird.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next section too. But yeah, Isaiah's right. He's supposed to be he's supposed to be the kind of not straw man necessarily, but it's the avatar of the enemy, of the point that C.S. Lewis is trying to make. The bad guy in the sense of, hey, he's trying to glorify humanity and, like Isaiah says, preserve humanity. And then he kind of gets knocked down and exposed as a fool in the next section, or the last part of the book, for sure. Mm-hmm. But as far as a bad guy goes, he's pretty fun. He's petty. He's cowardly. He is, bold in what he believes, but is foolish at the same time. So I think he's a classic bad guy, and I like him. So I like him on the level of a character, not as a person, obviously. And then lastly, let's talk about the point. What were some themes that you picked up on in the novel, and what was the point that C.S. Lewis wanted you to walk away with?
I feel like it was that humans are, I don't know, not evil, fallen. I guess that we're fallen, basically. And that most humans have selfish desires and stuff like that. I'm gonna say, or how do I say this? I don't know how to say it, but
yeah, I know what you mean. Like I said earlier, and I said it a lot, and it's kind of repetitive, but I'll say it again. The whole point of the C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy was to expose how materialism, evolutionism, the glorification of humanity beyond what it should be glorified as is evil, it's wrong, and it's stupid and foolish. And so, on the level of this book, it's at the very end, Weston's giving his grand speech of life is more important than anything, humanity ought to be preserved because it deserves to be, because it's above all things. And it's just, look, this guy's stupid. It's taking materialism, humanism to its natural end, right? Its logical conclusion, and it's realizing that this is absurd. It's just crazy. This is insane. It's dumb. And so I say it's a straw man, not in the sense that it's an unfair argument, but it's a completely fair argument. It's what the other side believes. And C.S. Lewis is portraying it in a way to where you're like, yeah, that's really dumb. That's really stupid, and who would want that? And over the course of the novel, you come to realize, like Isaiah said, humanity is sometimes the evil. Humanity is fallen. Humanity is selfish. It is greedy. It is cowardly, and it will invade other planets, and for the sake of its preservation. It will deem itself more worthy than everything else because it's fallen. And I think that's a cool inversion, like Isaiah said at the very beginning, of the sci-fi genre. It's a cool inversion of the culture of C.S. Lewis' time when he wrote this novel, and at the same time keeping with the biblical narrative of the fall and of humanity's need for a savior and of humanity's corruption, or as they would say on Malacandra, like they're bent. And it's also kind of what was I gonna say? It's also not very subtle, honestly, in just its point of humanity is sometimes dumb, but it's also weird because in modern day like culture, it's humanity is not glorified. I mean, it's called the most invasive species. It's called a scourge upon society, and so to a certain degree, what C.S. Lewis was fighting against now really doesn't exist in the same way, but it's still a threat. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
I get that.
It really kind of goes both ways and says, so here's the truth. Humanity is evil because we're fallen and because we rejected and disobeyed God at the very beginning. And as a result, we shouldn't glorify humanity because we're fallen. But at the same time, let's not go too far because we still are made in the image of God. We still have an opportunity per se. We still can think. But at the same time, we're fallen. So, now, anything else to say about the point?
No, I think you covered it.
So on a scale, well, let's not. I do a lot of. How likely do you think you're gonna read the other books in the trilogy?
I mean, I want to read them. It just depends because I have some other books that I want to read too right now that I've been waiting to read for a bit. So
yeah,
kind of just depends if I remember to read it in the future whenever I don't have anything to read.
Yeah, honestly, at the very it's the second book especially. It's not so much a entertainment read, an enjoyable read per se, but more of an interesting read, and almost a philosophical essay, basically in the novel form.
Well, how C.S. Lewis ended the first book, I technically don't have to go and read the next ones because it was a good ending for it.
Right. All of his books, honestly, are self-contained. All of them are. You could even skip over the second one, just go to the third one. And I think you'd be fine. I think the third one is good, too. The third one, like I said in the other one, is really materialism and humanism, if pushed to the extremes, will lead to demonism, honestly. So, a lot of isms.
I was just going to say that's a longer book, though.
It is. It's a much longer book. It is, yep. It's more, I think it's equal to the first and second book combined, almost, at least. Yeah.
I feel like it's still more than that, but...
Yeah, well, it's a big book. It is, but
okay,
I think it might be worth it.
It's like 120 pages, 50 pages.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
So it's not
pretty
like super
short.
big. Yeah.
No, it's a short novel. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Anything else to say about Atlas Silent Planet?
No. Besides, it's a good book, and I recommend people read it.
Yep, I do too. How many planets out of 9? Because Pluto is a planet. I'm kidding. It's not. How many planets out of 9 would you give to Atlas Silent Planet?
Ooh, I'll give it like a 7.5.
7 out of 9. Okay. I'll give it a 6.5 out of 9.
Okay.
I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. So whatever that is, a 9. So
I know. I'm trying to do that in my head too for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of threw us off doing 9. It's pretty fun. It's a really cool sci-fi inversion. It's got a lot of interesting things to say, and it's fairly entertaining. It'll keep you interested. So I do recommend it. I think people will enjoy it, although I think I wouldn't give this to a 12-year-old, just not because of like how like adult it is, but there's nothing wrong. It's just, will they enjoy it at 12 more than they will at 13 or 14? Agreed. No, they won't. There's no reason to give it this to a 12-year-old. So anyway, there's some donor shout-outs. I'll give you a donor, and then you tell me which planet you think that they would like to live on, okay? All right. We have Nana. Oh, real fast. If you want a donor shout-out, make sure you go to patreon.com/book and donate for $5 or more. Get yourself a donor shout-out here on the show. All right. Isaiah, Nana.
Yeah. Let's go with Saturn.
Okay. Van Pappy and Wayla.
Neptune.
Mike and Sylvia.
Venus.
Mr. Mike and Miss Laura.
Let's go with Earth.
Wow. Giving your parents the old Earth, huh? Your Uncle Sebby.
Let's go with Mars.
All right, Aunt Jenny and Uncle Sam.
I'm trying to think of other planets that I'm trying to think of what I've already done.
Uranus.
Have I done Neptune? I feel like I've done Neptune.
You've done Neptune. You got Uranus,
Go
Mercury. Yeah, Mercury. You'll probably have to start using planets again here soon. Moses.
Yeah. Moses, I guess Uranus.
All right, Zara.
Jupiter.
All right, you probably have to start reusing planets here. We got Anna.
Yeah. Anna, let's also go with Mars.
All right, Emily.
Emily, Venus.
Awesome. Becky.
Saturn.
Okay, and then Lizzie.
And Lizzie, Mercury.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for donating, and thank you for listening. If you like the show, make sure you go and support us at the link that I said in the show notes. If you like us a lot, but you can't donate for whatever reason, totally okay. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating and review. That helps us out very much. And if you like us, but you can't give a review for some reason, then make sure you tell your friends about the show. If you like our discussions, you think we're funny, interesting, entertaining, all of that stuff, make sure you tell your friends about it, because most likely they'll find it interesting and entertaining too. So we'd really appreciate you guys telling your friends about the podcast. And I think next time we're talking about another C.S. Lewis book, The Screwtape Letters. So that's going to be pretty fun. And then after that, Animal Farm. We got a good row coming up. I'm excited to talk about Animal Farm especially. So, all right, we'll see you next time. And until then,
keep on booking it.